Serious, what is a little known fact that can save you from a life-threatening situation? Unless you have training, don't try to rescue someone drowning by swimming to them. Use something to reach out for them to grab onto. They will grab onto you out of fear and not let go, and you may drown with them. If a panicked drowning person grabs you, swim down. They'll let go when you start pulling them under. So there's actually a maneuver you can do where you push up on the arm grabbing you, ducking under it, and then go behind them. I'm sure there are YouTube videos. It's one of the few things I remember from being a lifeguard. I shared this story on Reddit before. I learned this firsthand from my dad. I was on a camping trip and me, my friend, and a camp counselor were in a kayak. Much further away, my dad and my friend's dad were in another kayak. My friend's dad couldn't swim, but my dad could. From a distance, we see my dad's kayak flip over. My friend's dad was thrashing around in the water. Meanwhile, my dad stayed a bit away from him and just kept screaming help, while treading water. Fortunately, the camp counselor in the boat with us was a trained lifeguard. He jumped into the water and saved my friend's dad. Later, that night, I asked my dad why he didn't try to save my friend's dad. It was bugging me the whole day. My dad said, if I tried, then both of us would be dead. Never try to save someone who is drowning unless you are trained to do so. You are much better off staying above the water and yelling for help. Pretty much exactly what my dad did. Go. Know where the exits are. If you see a huge explosion in the distance, you've got 1 to 2 seconds before you will be hit by the shock wave. You can protect yourself from the shock wave by turning away from the explosion, exhaling, and keeping your mouth open to help equalize the pressure. In the case of an abduction, your best bet is to scatter some of your belongings, like an ID, on the ground. The possibility of tracking you down becomes that much greater that way. Go. If you are confronted by someone wanting to abduct you, run. And run like hell. If they try to kill you for running, they were almost certainly going to kill you anyway. So your best bet is to just take off and hope they move on to someone else. Also, if you are grabbed, but have a hand free, jam your thumb into their eye rather than punch or hit. I was taught as a young woman in the 80s to put one key between my index and middle finger, and one key between my middle and ring finger, like many Wolverine claws, and to aim for the eyes, then run, while screaming, fire. Not idly do the leaves of Lorien fall. Chances of being found if abducted? 50/50ths. Chances of being found if taken to a secondary location? Slim to none. If put in the trunk of a car, pull back the carpet lining, punch out the rear tail light, and wave at oncoming traffic. That way passing motorists will know something hinky is going on. If the car is newer than 2001, then there is a trunk release inside trunk that should be lit. Pull it. If a high voltage power line falls near you, stepping away from it may kill you, as they may carry more than 100,000 volts. One large step may put your front foot at a place where the voltage is much lower. If the difference is high enough, the insulation from your shoes may be too low to prevent the voltage from passing through, and killing you. Prevent this by shuffling away using tiny steps. This minimizes the voltage difference between your feet. Even if all your tires are flat/slashed, you can still drive on them. It'll mess up your rims something fierce, but you'll be able to get away from whatever is causing you drive on your rims. Edit. Holy crap, this blew up overnight. Few things I'll add to this for clarification, as well as different things for different scenarios. Before I start, I recommend you check your insurance. Most dealership insurance, or big insurance groups, have you pay for roadside assistance automatically, which means towing/lockout/gas/flat changing/jump start. 1. I meant this as yes, a life-threatening situation, but more of a Jason/Swamp Thing/hillbilly chasing you, trying to murder you. Like in horror movies when they run to the car, see all the ties slashed, then immediately give up on that option. Don't give up. Like I said, you can still drive on it, get away from that situation. 2. If you plan on traveling a long distance, get your car inspected. Most local shops, or even major ones, usually have a promotion going on for free checks first time. What they do is read the codes from your vehicle, check fluid levels, and then check the tread, something you can do with YouTube and an AutoZone. Some of those are things that can be handled later, but most issues you'll want to deal with based on what might cause the most issues. 3. Check if there is a spare. Most cars that have a spare have a pretty unsafe jack as well. It can lift up your car so you can change that tire, but it takes forever. 3. By unsafe jack I mean that while it can lift your car, the moment your car rocks, from like a friend leaning on it or a kid jumping around, the rocking will cause it to slip and the car to fall. Do not get under the car with the jack they use for the spare. 3. Yes, it can be exceedingly dangerous to change a flat based on what's going on around you, or where you are. If you are on a highway, interstate, or a place with a ton of blind spots, get away from all that as fast as you can. You might have to drive on the rim a bit, but let the mechanic worry about that. If you are on a dark road at night time, get as far from the road as you can. If you are near a turn, get inside the turn, as most cars drift towards the outside when they turn at high speeds. Try to make yourself as visible as possible, reflective vest, people holding flashlights behind you, road flares. 3. Fastest way I've found to change a tire. First, once you get to a location you're confident in enough to get out in check traffic, see how many cars pass and how close they pass, that'll let you know its relative safety. Second, put the e-brake on and get the lug wrench and loose the bolts before you lift the car. The reason is that, based on the tire location and your drive type, the tire may spin as you try to loosen the lug nut. By leaving it on the ground, it acts like holding a jar, making it easier to loosen the nut. Same thing with the e-brake, it'll stop the tire from spinning so you can loosen it. Third, once they are loose, jack up the car, a lot. I know you can get the flat off once the rim is like 4 inches off the ground, but you have to keep in mind the spare will be taller. Keep jacking it up until the jack is nearly extend all the way. Most of the time the jack is sized for the spare, so it'll look weird and make you a bit uncomfortable with how skinny it looks. That's fine. Fourth, hand tighten all the lug nuts, using your other hand to push back the tire so as much off the bolt is exposed as possible. The lug wrench is long and it'll most likely mean you can only do 1/4 turns or 1/2 with it, which will take forever to bolt back on the tires. This way you only use the lug wrench to tighten the screws, rather than put them on. 4. Driving on the rim will mess up your rims. That's unavoidable. I'll leave it up to you to determine what the situation calls for. Honestly, I recommend you check your tires every other week or so. Use a penny to determine if the tire tread needs to be replaced. If the tread is smooth, get it replaced immediately. I know money can be tight, so a used tire shop is fine. They'll have more tread than the tire you got, so that's good. 5. There is different goop/run flat bottles that are good for punctures. You spray it in the tire then inflate it. 5. Because it's good for punctures, you must inflate it to a good size at a gas station after you use the goop. 5. The goop is normally only good for 100-ish miles, it is literally meant as a stopgap till you can get it to a mechanic. Just because the title or pictures might infer that it's fixed, it is not. You need to get the hole patched or the tire replaced. Gosh, it always annoys me when I see someone with a flat tire in the middle of the road. You drove at least a good while before you noticed, and now you think the extra 10 feet going slow will destroy it? People commonly say not to make eye contact with people in sketchy places. However, eye contact takes away the element of surprise, which is often an attacker's first weapon/advantage. My colleagues comment that I always walk with purpose, like I'm on a mission. They don't know it's because my dad taught me to be confident AF before going to college. You're less likely to be messed with that way. Go. In general, if you look like you're on your way to stomp on someone's neck, people keep their distance hoping that it's not their neck. Yes, if you act like you belong there, and it's a Setchi neighborhood, they will assume you're even more Setchi as they are. Also, looking around and making eye contact, as well as not looking like a lost tourist, will deter pickpockets and such 99%. I usually walk with purpose and make sure I acknowledge everyone's presence by looking briefly in their direction. No aggressive eye contact, but I want them to know there is no element of surprise and I've seen their face. After a brief look, I move my gaze to the side. Never downwards, as it could make me look scared or inattentive. If you have to sleep in a car, you can loop your seat belt through your door handle loop and click it in for extra security. Learn that from a truck driver. An empty juice bottle makes for an excellent improvised toilet on long journeys. In the extremely unlikely event you are attacked by a swarm of bees, most adults can typically just outrun them, especially if you run into the wind. Do not stop running, some bees will chase you for up to a quarter mile. Do not try to hide underwater, they will wait for you to come up for air. Beekeeper checking in, Western honeybees are generally docile. The exception is when they feel the hive is in danger. Their first response is headbutting, running into you. After that they will sting. When they sting they release an alarm pheromone which can increase the defensive behavior significantly. Non-Africanized honeybees rarely will follow/chase you further than 30 to 50 feet from the hive. Do not swat your arms, also try to remain calm and always cover your face. They sense the CO2 from your breath and will target that area. Africanized honeybees will chase you much further and their attack is more fierce. As someone else mentioned, do not go into a body of water as they will wait you out. Bees used to make me panic, but then I started gardening and spent a lot of time around them. Usually it seems they are just mostly curious, or confuse my lotion for a flower. If they really won't leave me alone after a few buzz-bites, I have found that gently pushing them away from me with an open palm gets the point across and they move on. Do not try this with yellow jackets. If someone's pointing a gun at you, it's probably risky to pull out a gun and point it at them. I'd like for once to see a Hollywood movie where someone tries this and the other guy pulls the trigger immediately. Never put your hands in your pockets when going up or down the stairs. If you trip while your hands are in your pockets, they may as well be useless. A couple different things for different situations. If you're stabbed and the knife is still in, don't take it out. It's plugging a wound and stopping you from leaking. If you're stuck outside in the cold, especially if you're lost, stay in place and try to stay out of the wind. Stationary people are easier to find. Also, no matter how warm you suddenly feel, keep your clothes on. Your body flash processes glucose in a last-ditch effort to keep warm right before you freeze to death, and it can make you feel unbearably hot if you've been freezing for the last couple hours. Above all else, if you can't remember anything else, calm people live. Panicked people die. If you're fighting a kangaroo, as you do, punch the kangaroo as hard as you possibly can, and don't run. Running shows fear and then the kangaroo knows it can beat you. The reason why you punch is because, in a kangaroo's mind, any kick is way stronger than any punch. Let's say 10x stronger, I don't know exactly. So if you punch them hard enough, they'll back down because they'll think you can kick them 10x harder than that. If you didn't punch them hard enough, well, you're fucked. This reminds me of a video from a few years ago. A kangaroo grabbed a dog and the owner punched the fuck out of the kangaroo until it let go.